One for the Unicron Trilogy kids this week, as we take a look at the history of the gigantic Decepticon who dominates any battle on land, air, or sea, the strong-arm Admiral, TIDAL WAVE. TIDAL WAVE was released in the Transformers Armada toy line in 2003. The figure was an unusual one, made up of 3 separate naval vessels, an aircraft carrier, a double-prowed battleship, and a landing craft. These 3 ships, together called the Dark Fleet, combined to form one giant warship, which could then transform into TIDAL WAVE's robot mode. TIDAL WAVE came packaged with his Minicon partner, Ramjet, who plugged into his chest to activate rotating cannons. TIDAL WAVE joined the cast of the Armada cartoon halfway through the series, when he was summoned to join the fight on Earth by the Decepticon tactician, Thrust. He wasn't the most intelligent bot, with a vocabulary that barely extended past slowly chanting his own name over and over.
TIDAL WAVE, TIDAL WAVE, TIDAL WAVE.
But what he lacked in smarts, he made up for in raw power. He was absolutely huge, heavily armoured, bristling with weaponry, and unlike many of this series' Decepticons, he could fly in robot mode. TIDAL WAVE could also combine with his leader, Megatron, granting him access to all these abilities, allowing Megatron to go toe-to-toe with Optimus Prime when he merged with his flying combination partner, Jetfire. TIDAL WAVE's colour scheme in the cartoon was noticeably different from his toy, having been based on an early design for the figure that had been changed after the show went into production. When it was released in Japan later in the year, where the Armada cartoon was produced, the toy was recoloured to better match TIDAL WAVE's animated look. In Japan, TIDAL WAVE was sold under the name Shockwave, and his Cybertronian mode, briefly glimpsed in the cartoon, drew inspiration from the Generation 1 Decepticon of the same name. Outside the cartoon, TIDAL WAVE's other big role in Armada media was in the PlayStation 2 video game, an entire level of which took place inside his warship form, culminating in him transforming to robot mode for an extremely memorable boss battle. TIDAL WAVE's toy was re-released in a new white and green colour scheme in Armada's 2004 sequel toy line, Transformers Energon. The Energon cartoon picked up 10 years after the end of Armada, and saw TIDAL WAVE and the other Decepticons, left leaderless following Megatron's death in Armada's finale, allying themselves with the alien Alpha Quintesson, and gathering Energon in order to harness the power of the monster planet Unicron to bring Megatron back to life. In his eagerness to accomplish this task, TIDAL WAVE was exposed to unprocessed Energon, which overloaded his body and gave him the lightning-like scars that decorated his new toy. Later in the series, TIDAL WAVE butted heads with fellow Decepticon Shockblast, due to Shockblast's sociopathic disregard for his teammates. When the feuding pair tripped over one another on the battlefield, TIDAL WAVE was crushed under a collapsing tower. To repair his injuries, Megatron used the power of Unicron to reformat TIDAL WAVE into a smaller, sleeker new gunboat form. Now seeming smarter and more articulate, TIDAL WAVE took on the new name, Mirage. One aspect of the character that didn't fully translate into the English version of the cartoon was that Mirage developed a romantic attraction to his leader. A love so great that when Megatron met his end in the flames of an Energon sun in the series finale, the devoted Mirage willingly followed his leader into fiery oblivion. TIDAL WAVE was also featured in the Energon comic book published by Dreamwave Productions, which told a different version of his story. Here, he was one of the Terrorcons, a group of renegade Decepticons who agreed to work for Alpha Quintesson in return for a Unicron-endowed power boost. Significantly more intelligent and well-spoken than his cartoon counterpart, the comics Tidal Wave was beaten to scrap by Terracon leader Scorponok after failing in a mission to acquire a cache of seismic shock warheads from Autobot weapons engineer Ironhide, but was then repaired and upgraded into Mirage by Alpha Quintesson to serve as part of his personal elite strike squad. Now, Transformers who turn into nautical vessels are pretty rare, which made Tidal Wave a memorable bot among the original characters Armada and Energon introduced, and in turn has led to the big guy reappearing in a few new Transformers series years later. First, continuing the nautical theme of the original character, the Tidal Wave was the name of the ship used by the space pirates, the Star Seekers, in both the 2011 novel Transformers Exiles and 2014's Transformers Timelines comic book. Though, by all appearances, in these stories, the ship was just a ship, not an actual Transformer. The actual character of Tidal Wave would make his first major reappearance in IDW Publishing's 2015 comic book miniseries Sins of the Wreckers. In this series, Tidal Wave was a member of Mayhem, a Cybertronian anarchist group working for the mad scientist Tarantulas. Provided with an organic alternate mode by Tarantulas, the gigantic Tidal Wave turned into a blue whale and served as an underwater mobile headquarters for the team. He could also convert into a huge tank, but his sheer size meant he often had to be left out of missions, which left him a sullen, moody bot with a persecution complex. When the Mayhems battled the Autobot commando unit the Wreckers inside Tarantulas' artificial pocket dimension, the Noise Maze, Tidal Wave refused to be left out any longer and forced his way inside the Noise Maze so he could take part, only for his colossal size to wind up disrupting the Noise Maze's delicate gravimetric balance, causing the entire dimension to collapse in on itself. In 2016, Tidal Wave briefly appeared in Beast Wars Uprising, a series from the Transformers Collectors Club set on a dystopian future Cybertron, where a lack of energy had led to Tidal Wave being mode-locked into his warship form. For his short appearance in this story, Tidal Wave was drawn based on the Autobot aircraft carrier Broadside from 2016's Titan's Return toy line. And the following year, the Broadside toy was retooled and recolored to create the first brand new Tidal Wave toy in over 10 years. Where Beast Wars Uprising had used his original toy colours, this new toy used his cartoon-inspired Japanese colours. Available only as part of the Siege on Cybertron box set, he was a triple changer, able to convert into both an aircraft carrier and a jet, and his head disconnected and transformed into a small Titan Master robot named Fathom. Most recently, Tidal Wave was featured in the Transformers trading card game in 2020, an unexpected appearance that only proves his continued cult favourite popularity with fans, who live in hope that someday he might even get a huge new Titan-class toy. Until then, we can only keep dreaming that one day Hasbro will hear our cries for Tidal Wave, Tidal Wave, Tidal Wave. And those are the basics on Tidal Wave. Share your feelings about this big boat bot in the comments. If you've enjoyed this video, like and subscribe for more, and if you support the series on Patreon, you'll be able to watch new episodes before everyone else.